My name is David Ford. I'm the Public Works Director for the town of Wolfeboro. And today we are here for a kind of a workshop on gravel road maintenance. And what I'd like to do is kind of give you a quick, what our agenda is. I'm going to give an overview of why we're here and what our goals are. Matthew Sullivan is going to talk about the scenic roads and the RSA on that. Then I'm going to kind of break down what we do for gravel road maintenance in the area that mostly concerned about North Wolfeboro, because I have had a lot of comments from North Wolfeboro residents, and I've met with them, and I thought this would be a good way to reach out so that we could have a good dialogue between the stakeholders and the people who maintain your roads. We realize we're public servants. We work for you. You pay the taxes, and we sometimes we get in our little world and we keep our blinders on and we go straight ahead, and we thought this would be a good opportunity so that you could hear from us, but that we could hear from you also. The first part of the presentation will be a little bit more like a lecture, and I apologize for that, but we want to get some information out again on how we do the road maintenance and the RSA. The other thing I want to tell you, we have a sign-up sheet going around. It's for email, so if you want to have a follow-up, our hope is, again, when you look at our agenda, we're going to go over the maintenance, our budgets, and then we're going to get really into the meat of it, which is the stakeholder concerns, your concerns, and our hope is that we're able to identify problems and needs and come up with where we want to go in the future. Again, no guarantees. It's not like everything's going to change 100% tomorrow. The idea, this is a process and how we can do better to serve our people. We're also using a kind of a process called context-sensitive solutions. And it's something as an engineer that I never knew about. But 10 years ago, I went to this seminar, and it talks about one solution doesn't always fit all. And actually, it was a DOT seminar. And sometimes when you have a DOT road, that's one solution. If you have a secondary road, that's a second solution. If a town road, that's a third solution. And if you have a rural road up in the rural country, that might be another solution. And as engineers, it took me a little while, but I'm coming around to that. And I realized when I had a meeting in the fall with the North Wolfeboro Association that we were trying to apply a strict standard to all the roads. I kept saying, hey, we want 18-foot wide roads, 1-foot shoulders, 2-to-1 back slopes, and really that's not physically possible because of the geology of our roads. And I started thinking that really we need to maybe be thinking in terms of the context and how we apply the solution for those contexts. So again, like I said, today's process, we do want to get some information out to you about how we do it and why we do things, and then we're going to open it up to you and hopefully to get some good feedback. And from that point, we'd like to develop some action items. And again, anyone who wants to follow up, just get your email, because I think it'd be most efficient to do everything by email. With that, the other thing too, I'd like to also point out, because the Public Works Department, our mission is to protect the health and the welfare of the public. And we do that by maintaining and upgrading our infrastructure, whether it be town roads, which we're talking about today, or our water sewer systems, our waterfront, our parking lots, our town buildings. It's what we do, and we're trying to do better at it. I'll also make a statement up front too that I'm not perfect. I make a lot of decisions every day, and sometimes I make the wrong decisions, and sometimes my men, we try to get the information out with the projects we're doing. We always feel as though we are doing the right thing and we have the right intents, but we're not perfect. I've made mistakes. My men have made mistakes. So when we talk about this process, not every road gets the same exact treatment. Sometimes we do make mistakes, and again, just going in that, no one is perfect. So what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Matthew to talk about the scenic roads. Thank you, Matthew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Sullivan, Director of Planning Development for Wolfeboro. And Dave and I felt that we would be remiss to not address the issue of scenic roads and their implication on some of the rural portions of Wolfeboro. So I wanted to give you a brief background on the statute that establishes those roads. It's defined under RSA 231, 157 through 158. And really, any road other than a Class 1 or a Class 2 highway can be designated as a scenic road by the legislative body of the municipality, and we have a few here in Wolfeboro. And what that really means is that in order to do any work that requires the damage or removal of trees or any removal or destruction of stone walls, you actually have to obtain written permission of the planning board prior to that work actually happening, and that's really a critical notification. process there. So how exactly does a road go about getting designated? There are really two different ways this can happen. The first way is that a petition can be signed by 10 voters, or a petition can be signed by 10 landowners that are abutting the road directly. And what that means is that not only do the voters need to be from one, or it's sort of a protection clause so that if you have landowners that are in an adjacent municipality, you really only need 5 from one community and 5 from another community in order to designate it as a road. The petitioners then must provide the town clerk with a list of the names of the owners along the road in order to provide an adequate notification process. The town clerk receives the petition, and within 10 days, they actually have to go about notifying those landowners that their road has been submitted via petition for consideration as a scenic road, and that it will be appearing on the warrant of the next town meeting. I will say there's one other method by which scenic roads can be designated or at least listed to the warrant, and that is under RSA 31-131 you see listed here, and that sort of implies that selectmen may actually assign any warrant that can be assigned through a petition warrant. And as a result, the selectmen can actually prepare the designation of a scenic road, submit it as any sort of any group of voters or landowners would, and it can be attached to the warrant for the next year. So that's one other method by which it can get designated. Now, getting into how this actually functions, there's a notice and public hearing process, again, for any work to occur along the road. The planning board must hold a public hearing on any request from a municipality, that being the road maintenance, or a utility for any utility maintenance, cut trees, or remove stone walls, as I referenced before. The notice of the public hearing must be posted in a local newspaper 2 times. And as you can see here, the second notice must appear at least 7 days in advance of the meeting where this is to be considered via a public hearing. So that's important. And many municipalities slip up there. I should note that there are some things that require exceptions here under statute. It's important to note that landowners that abut a scenic road, essentially the road is access for you, are exempt from the statute's limitations, meaning that you can perform work on your property related to those trees and those stone walls, with a few caveats, which I'll get to in a second. Another exception is that road agents and public utilities have some very significant exceptions here, and I'll get to those in a second as well. But one thing I want to point out is that the scenic road status is not intended to be a notification process for municipalities. And the reason for that is that municipalities are actually already legally required to give prior notice to property owners before cutting trees on any public highway, not just on scenic roads, in fact. On top of that, when it comes to utilities, utilities are required to not only give notification to those landowners, but also they have to request permission to do so as well. So that's why the scenic road statute really isn't intended to be a notification process. That's required regardless. Now for landowners, as I mentioned just a second ago, the scenic road designation really does not affect them when it comes to cutting trees on their own property, unless the municipality has established some shade or ornamental trees, which I believe we have a few downtown here that are established, and in that instance, you actually do have to consult with the municipality. Landowners are also free to remove or alter stone walls, the only exception being that if your stone wall is part of a boundary marker, you have to treat it under statute as well, and it doesn't mean that you can actually adjust that boundary wall at all. And there's only one method for the municipality to prevent landowners from cutting or removal, and that is if the municipality acquires the land via title to a highway strip or by taking tree rights under the tree warden law, which is assigned under 231-154. So those are 2 very rare instances, but you do see them in some situations. I mentioned a road agent exemption, and in this case, we're a bit odd, not odd, but as a larger community, we don't have a road agent. We have a director of public works, and is authorized under statute. The road agent may actually remove trees that have been determined to be a public nuisance, according to RSA 231-145 and 146. And that can be done actually without the consent of the planning board or any sort of public hearing, so that's important to keep in mind. But the trees must impose some sort of imminent threat to safety or property. That's critical. And one thing I should note is that the road agent, even if it's a public nuisance and it's of imminent threat to safety or property, the road agent must first get written permission from the Board of Selectmen to do that removal or any modification. Utilities are a bit different on top of that, the utility exception. Utilities can perform work necessary to promptly restore utility service. I'm using statutory language here that's interrupted by facility damage. The difference is that unlike the road agent, they do not need to get permission from the Board of Selectmen. What they do, however, have to do is after the work is done, they have to return to the Board of Selectmen and report the nature of the work and any impacts that were felt as a result. So it's sort of this after-the-fact notification. So that's the utility exception. One thing I think it's important to note is there are additional provisions allowed under the Scenic Roads Law. There are a couple things a municipality can do. The first of which, or one example I wanted to give, is that the planning board can actually establish more specific criteria for how requests to cut trees or remove stone walls are actually done and what the thresholds are there. So they can actually be more restrictive. The second is that you can provide further protection for trees that are smaller than the 15 inches of circumference that's listed in the statute, at 4 feet from the ground, as long as you are doing some sort of establishment of or regeneration of growth under RSA 231-158-5. That's one critical piece. The last thing is relevant to our discussion, I think, in that each municipality must maintain a list of all these scenic roads, and it has to be updated on an annual basis. Furthermore, the municipality has to be able to quickly and readily identify the scope of the scenic road designation, because it may be that the entire road is not designated, and exactly where in the municipality it actually is. And that's a critical thing that must be included on that municipal scenic roads list. And that's really I think, a great summary and quick summary of the scenic roads legislation. Thanks.
Do any questions or comments about the scenic roads? I know we really talk about maintenance and problems and concerns, but any issues or questions about scenic roads?
Great.
All right. In my agenda, I had this second, but I just wanted to put this in because we have a significant budget, over $1.3 million, and over 50% of that is for manpower. We have 10 full-time highway workers. Of those 10, they're all have been through training. They're all either commercial driver's license or we have a new hire who is in training. Further broken down by services, maintenance, and supplies. And it is the way I look at it, we spend about almost 30% of our time in emergencies. Like pretty much all winter long is whenever we have a snow emergency, whenever there's a major storm, or if there's a tree that is down, those are all emergency call-outs, potholes. So there's a lot of emergency work we do. There's a lot of regular maintenance we do, which would include, for now, we're starting spring cleanup. We'll spend a couple of weeks downtown sweeping and cleaning the sidewalks from the winter debris. We'll be striping crosswalks. We'll be cleaning catch basins, and so there's a lot of regular maintenance that goes on, and that takes up a good portion of the man hours. And then there's the capital repairs, which we try to extend our capital dollars. Each year we have a road budget to improve town roads, and we try to supplement that with the town crews by installing drainage and improving, replacing culverts and that type of stuff. So that's pretty much it on the budgets. Let's talk about the maintenance of gravel roads. Again, our responsibilities are pretty clear. We're to maintain the right-of-way and to provide a safe travel for the public coming and going. Our problems are Mother Nature, you know, whether it be this time of year when the roads soften up, the mud, drainage is always a major issue for us, and again, traffic. And we go through cycles. I think right now, when I moved up to Wolfeboro in 1986, North Wolfeboro was quite a bit different than it is now. You know, there's many more houses up that area. In fact, I might have been one of the first to move up into the Upper Trask Mountain Road subdivision. And prior to that, Ken could probably tell there probably wasn't much traffic going by your house up by Diamond Quarter. But you're the real estate broker that sold me the lot, so we always like to point that out. The issue with our roads are really difficult, and like I think we had a nice letter that someone who couldn't be here sent, and talks about these roads were built over 100 years ago, and they were basically horse and buggy type roads. They evolved over time, and they're not built to what I would say DOT standards or even town standards. They've kind of evolved, and one of the things that I realized when I was with the North Wolfeboro Association in the fall was that the roads used to be a lot narrower. And my memory now is going back 10 years, but if you go back 30 years or 40 years, I think they made the case, and I had to start thinking about that. You probably were right. The roads were probably much more narrow because back then there was much less traffic. And in fact, my highway guys would tell me our trucks were smaller. We had mostly one-ton trucks without wings on them, and even our bigger trucks were not anywhere near the size of the trucks that we have today. As a result, that impacts the road. So you can have the traffic can rut the road. Even our big trucks, when we're plowing, can have problems with it. So those are our problems. Additional challenges we have, especially in the rural areas where we don't have a closed drainage system, we have situations where, and you know, again, I like to have a nice lawn, and I like to take care of my lawns. I have no problem with that. But when someone, you know, puts their lawn right up to the edge of the pavement, actually the travelway, that doesn't allow for drainage ditches, it makes it more difficult, again, for snow storage. And then our other challenge is, especially when you have a snowstorm after snowstorm, when you plow, you have to really push back those banks because the road actually gets narrower and narrower as the town goes on. So we have to push those back. This picture, again, is very pleasing, but it does create a challenge for us to maintain that. This is a situation pretty much, and again, we can see without drainage, where does the water have to go? Well, it goes down the edge of the road, and again, most of our gravel roads will get soft anyways, but this kind of exacerbates if there's no ditch for where the water to run to. The other situation where I talked about where in situations here, whereas if we wanted to plow up to the edge of the travelway and do not expose the shoulder, how is the next storm that comes in, then those freeze and it can encroach on the travelway. The other situation too, here, we've allowed a berm to develop here so the water would run down here and not run off the road. That creates a problem for us. And in this situation here, when we came back, and this is one that I had a complaint on, that we pushed the snowbanks back, and as a result, all this gravel and sand is now going to end up on the property owner's lawn. And that's a problem for them. So we acknowledge that, but it's again our responsibility to try to keep those roads open and safe during the winter. A good road, proper maintenance, and this is not the greatest picture, but would have a good road cross-section here, which would allow us to have a cross slope, the water would run off. In this area here, while it's vegetated, it's a nice ditch, has a force slope of 3 to 1, probably a back slope of 2 to 1, and it goes down about 2 feet deep. That allows the water to run off, that allows for snow storage, and we push that back. That is what we would like to consider a good, properly maintained road. We maintain the travel surface by grading it and rolling it, and then we also treat it for dust control. Now, we go through each season, and right now, we're always looking at keeping the culverts. In fact, the crews were out today looking because of the rainstorm. We're worried about culverts plugging, so we're always out trying to make sure the culverts and the outlets are cleaned. We posted the roads because this time of year, the roads just cannot support it when the frost is coming and going. We posted early this year, maybe 2 weeks early because it had a little thaw, then it froze up again. Well, right now, we're in mud season now, and it'll be that way for a couple of weeks. We add gravel where needed, sometimes more in other areas than not, but we try to keep, the surface travelable. We can use a York rake, which is kind of a rake that goes out in front of our pickup truck, and we have it on the blue tractor on the backside. That helps kind of rake the road, which smooths out the washboarding and facilitates the drying. Again, we might come back again and clean the culverts and again wash those drainage outlets again. At some point, once the frost is gone, the mud season is over, we come out with the grader, which is a big machine, and we'll grade and rake the road to achieve that nice cross-section. And when I talk about cross-section, this is probably not very here, but this is kind of a bad drawing, but the cross-section, this right here, from the crown of the road, which is the center line of the road, out, we'd like to get about a 4% pitch. That'll allow the road to, the runoff to go off. We talked about the force slope, which is this side, which we'd like to have a 3 to 1 slope, and then a back slope of a 2 to 1. And then normally, a lot of areas we have the stone walls. Between the stone walls, that is what normally we consider our right-of-way. Well, the travel-way is much less. In some areas, 16 feet. We like to say a right-of-way width can vary between 30 and 50 feet, depending on how the road was laid out or if it were ever laid out. But normally, we respect the stone walls as the right-of-way. Travel widths vary. Again, I like to see 18 feet as a minimum with a 1-foot shoulder, which provides about a 20-foot road, which gives you plenty of room to have one of our big plow trucks, an emergency vehicle passing each other in case there's an emergency. So that's kind of what my goal is. But the reality is we have many of our rural roads are less than that. And I think it was pointed out to me that maybe 30, 40 years ago, there were a lot less, potentially one-lane roads in which you would, many times maybe have to back up or get out of the way if someone was coming the other direction. So we are actually over time, through our maintenance, we have widened the roads. We also, in spring, will apply the magnesium chloride for dust control, and it helps bind the gravel, and we roll it with a compact vibratory roller so that binds, and that hopefully keeps that road in good shape going through into the summer. This summer, we have some specific deficiencies that were pointed out to us, and those were our drainage outlets on Stoddard and Bickford Road. We kind of made a mess down there last year. I made a commitment to Ginny, she's here tonight, that we're going to get, as soon as we can get through between spring and summer, get out there. I've also been made aware of the historical cow pass, and that was knocked over by a grader by accident. It was put back just temporarily. I think we need to go out there and kind of make sure we protect it and make sure that it maybe even do some additional work to enhance its natural beauty. It is very historic, and we ought to take a better precaution on that. So the drivers know, and we're trying to make sure we protect this specific historic point. And I think if one of the things I'd like to hear tonight, if there are other points of history that we need to be preserving or other points, we do want to hear that, because we do need to make that. That's part of our project, I think, is preserving the history up there. We'll also be replacing failed or damaged culverts, and those come up, usually in the springtime we find out because of the rain or the runoff that we might have some additional problems. Certain roads, because of the high traffic, they may require us to go back and grade or rake, and we may have to treat again. If we have a very dry summer, we might have to treat a second time to keep the dust down. Again, we try to use our best management practices for the dust control and to continue to provide a smooth driving surface. In the fall, again, this is where we do most of our damage, and I have some pictures that were sent to me which shows when we clean the ditches, we use the grader, and that grader goes in there and it really scours out. We have to get the leaves out of there, and then a lot of times when we're plowing, gravel gets washed off into the ditches, and so we have a bunch of muck, and we'll go in there with the grader and a bucket of that material out so that we can keep those drainage ditches open. We try to reestablish that crown and have that proper cross-section, trying to get that 4% grade across. We'll, again, grade and york rake as necessary. We also go out and make sure we mark all the culverts. Those little whippets we put up there with the flag, those are important because we got to know where those culverts are in case, like the storm we have now, if you have a snowstorm and then a rainstorm right behind it, we need to make sure we can find them and get those opened up. We'll also trim overhanging branches, and that's an area where, again, we've got to allow for the trucks to get through, whether it's our plow trucks or big delivery trucks, so we'll trim out branches. And then, again, where we have the transition from a gravel road to a paved road, we'll try to make sure that those are smooth so that help prevent our plows from catching. During the winter, we have the challenges which are due to the temperature. If things freeze up nice and solid, that makes life real easy for us, but most of the time it's not. Sometimes we'll have the frozen surface, which is easy to plow, but sometimes when there's no frost or this time of year, when it's wet and the roads are softening up, it's going to be very careful. The driver has to be very cautious with his attention on the downplow because it doesn't take much to dig up the road and to toss it into the ditches. So they try to be careful with that, but it's not an exact science. They try to do their best and not to dig up the roads. The other thing that's important, which I mentioned before, is a need to wing back the snow banks. We need to knock out the banks, and then we need to push them back. And that's needed to keep the roads from closing in, and again, to allow the drainage to get to the ditches. And also, when I was here in my first year, 2007, April 2007, it was right around this time when we had a really heavy snowpack. And then we had about a week of warm weather, and then we had a 2-inch rainstorm. And that was created, I think it was around the middle of April, created a pretty significant storm. It was a FEMA storm. We were declared a disaster area, and we lost a lot of our roads up in Beach Pond Road was wiped out and closed down for about a month until we got it rebuilt, and some of our hills were damaged. So again, it's a significant responsibility for us to make sure we keep that drainage going. We try to do our best to keep that water flowing in those directions, and as a result, sometimes those ditches get ugly, and sometimes gravel gets pushed onto lawns, and sometimes we do damage. We try to take those comments back and try to repair those when we get to our summer work. So with that, I've kind of did a lot of talking. I didn't, and I don't know if anyone has any specific questions about the road maintenance. I have want to open this up, and I did get a letter from. Did I bring the letter? Jonathan Doherty that came in today, when he had a lot of good pictures showing the good and bad, because I had asked people if we have some things. So to help facilitate the discussion, what I'm going to do is, again, we're going to try to mark down the concerns and make sure we kind of make a list of what the concerns and problems are of the stakeholders. And then as we get through here, I'm going to show some that may be ones that we already do. So Matthew, if you want to start writing down.
Sure, absolutely.
So again, Mr. Doherty had wrote a very nice letter, and he gave me some good pictures. This one is, probably I can read, I'll read it. It's Cowper Road. This image accentuates the beauty of another road. The dominant features are the canopy of the trees, the road winding through them. The roadway looks traditional, appropriate size for the landscape, in part because of leaves fallen and covered the shoulders and ditches. The road cut on the left over here, which is hard to see, or right in here you can see it, has been cut, and is one of the visual distractions, and I would have to agree. It is an example where grading is cutting into the shoulder. The image illustrates how grading is widening the road on some stretches. And again, you can see that we're pushing off here. We've got a little bit of a windrow here. And again, down here, you can see where it's cutting in. It looks like the road is wider here. It looks like we're a little narrow there. So that would be, again, the first concern would be the roads being widened through grading. This is another one that, actually, these are two pictures. One is, again, a drainage outlet. Here is, probably a cross pipe where our ditches are flowing and we're washing. So you can see the fines now are getting out onto private property and washing down. Again, these drainage courses have existed for many years. We would consider these drainage rights by prescriptive. But again, if we have a washout, if we don't have proper ditches, you can have more of these concerns. This is an area, that's a culvert here, and that's, again, a sump. We talked about the need to clean these out after every rainstorm. We can have significant erosion, and those are areas that need to be cleaned out. For instance, if that's like that and the water is not able to get through, it'll overtop the road, wash the road out, and create even more problems. So that would be drainage outlets and erosion. This is a good picture which shows the images from a grading in which we're trying to, again, get that good riding surface, but the right-of-way was never originally constructed for us. But in our methods, by using a grader, because we have 16 miles of gravel roads, we can't go hand dig every one. This is what's occurring. This is really kind of an unacceptable situation. We have a straight, almost vertical curve here, which is not stable, and that's where we're getting the water to run in the ditch. Again, another situation we can see almost vertical, and that's a problem. So I would say the concern here again would be grading that causes erosion and has unacceptable side slopes. Again, ideally, this slope here is a good slope, but then it drops right off. So ideally, the slope would go from here back. Again, the easy fix would be to fill the road back in and push the road back to make it a one-lane road. But again, that's a difficult situation. As we've evolved, as the traffic has increased, and as when I would say my number one priority is keeping the safe travel, we don't see ourselves going back to single-lane roads. There are certain areas where we know we have some narrow spots, but for the most part, we're trying to keep the roads wider so that we can have safe travel in both directions. So with that, I would like to now open up the discussion and allow other people to speak, and maybe I can use these as examples if anyone wants to speak to.
Hello, David. Thank you for holding this seminar. My name is Suzanne Ryan on Stoneham Road. I have several different aspects to speak on.
Sure.
One is when we did the master plan last time, we did identify the scenic roads. And I went back and checked all the town reports to actually make sure that the dates they were adopted.
Yep.
There's one discrepancy, and that was Stoddard Road was not on the list, and it was adopted in 1995 as scenic. And Sewell Road, I could not find. I looked through every town report. I could not find it as voted. So
Okay.
those are voted and dates
Okay.
for you.
But we consider Sewell Road a scenic road, so we just got to find that That vote, okay.
Well,
So
but it's not in according to the statutes that were just read. Stoddard Road was not included in the master plan, and Sewell Road was. I put the dates of this, you can look up the town reports, okay? As I listen to you this evening, I hear increase in traffic, increase in traffic. We have to widen the roads because of increase in traffic. However, on Stoneham Road, we've had 2 new houses in 20 years,
double the capacity.
double the traffic. And in total, I think we have 6 houses.
Right.
We have little to no traffic on Jennis Farm Road.
Right.
And my concern is that I feel the equipment's too big. I love it when the small plow truck goes up there. When the big plow truck goes up there, this is what happens, if I can find it, to add to your collection. This.
Yeah, this is a picture of a tree that got hit pretty good by the wing, put a big scar in it. Yep, that's unfortunate.
And what happens, eventually, we lose the canopy over these roads that make them so scenic. The trees start to die. It takes many, many years, but they start to die. And then once that canopy goes, you've lost the beauty of the tunnel look of a scenic road. So, as I say, there's not a lot of traffic on Jennis Farm Road, on Stoneham Road. I can't attest to the other roads.
Right.
But the smaller the equipment, less is more to us.
Understand, let me just respond to that because you're absolutely correct. There's and I've talked to Jonathan about that also. There's very little traffic on Jennis Farms Road. Like you say, you've got 4 residences beyond that point. But it's still, if someone at the end of that road has a heart attack in the middle of a blizzard, we still have to get out there with emergency vehicles. The vehicles that we've grown to, which are the bigger trucks, we can't plow all the roads now. We have, the 6-wheelers and we have a 10-wheeler truck. And the idea is to get that travelway and the shoulder plowed off. The smaller trucks with a 1-ton without a wing doesn't do a good job at that. Again, we've moved forward to the point of if it's not traffic, it's the intent of trying to keep those roads open year-round under the worst-case scenario. So, but I do understand you that those are not as much in
That's your
traffic.
curve sign, the plow knocked out of whack.
Oh, okay, so that's another maintenance
Okay.
issue. Yep.
And then, David, when you talked about the budget, the operating budget,
Yep.
you left off the $750,000 that's a special warrant article to do designated roads.
Yes.
So we average a little over $2 million a year for roads.
Correct.
That's a bucket of money. And the thing of it is it's not always turns out so good. Now, this road on Stoneham was done in 2014. That's what it looks like now. It's a mess.
Well,
so my question is it the method that's being used? Is it that it's not being done down to the base good enough that would require more money, do it right the first time? Is it the contractors that we use? Is it not getting the proper method? Something's going wrong with these roads. They're not holding up.
Well, I would say that you're correct on Stoneham Road. Because of the Stoneham Road was in pretty bad shape, we did a shim overlay, and that's what we're seeing here. This is a picture showing that some of the road is cracking already after 3 years, 2.5 years. So that is a cheaper way to try to keep the travel surface. Like DOT will be overlaying our roads again, every 7 to 10 years they do a shim overlay. The proper way, like you're saying, is in a road that is heavily trafficked, like we did Beach Pond Road, North Line Road, parts of Forest Road, where we reclaim it, we add under drains, we add better drainage ditches, we might add additional crushed gravel. That's the appropriate way, but we can't do that to all the roads. So in the rural roads, we did try to, take care of Stoneham. We did rebuild a section out in front of Randy's house, a little lower down. But Certain areas, the geology is a lot worse. So the road is more spines, more stones, more subject to heaving. And unless you do a full box out, you're subject to these things. So like I say, we're not perfect. That would not be a situation of a contractor doing anything wrong or the methods we're using. It's just that it's sometimes, you know, again, that's like, look at North Wolfeboro Road. That's another one that's in really terrible shape. In 2010, we overlaid that. In 2012, I think we did a chip seal, and now it's probably its worst it's ever been. And
Then why don't we do it right the first time and spend the extra money? A penny saved is not cutting it.
That's a very good question. I think what we're trying to do now, if you look at, and I want to focus more on the rural roads and gravel roads, but this is really more about the paved roads, because the 750,000 is where the all that money goes to the paved roads, and that's what we have appropriated this year. 10 years ago it was 400,000. We've been trying to get that money up for the same reason. We know if we rebuild the roads and spend more money up front, they'll last longer, therefore it'll be less maintenance. With North Wolfeboro and Park Hill Road, those are two good examples. We took a cheap solution on North Wolfeboro Road to try to get it by because it was in really bad shape. So we did the shim and overlay across 28 on Park Hill Road. We rebuilt that to in a much better, we rounded up, we added gravels, and we put in the under drains. That road's holding up a lot better. So I would point to that one as a success, and I would have to point to North Wolfeboro as a not a success. Yes? So what Ken Perry is saying in the background, that now that it's such a good road that they can travel 50 miles an hour, which is above the speed limit, which is posted at 30. Again, we can't do enforcement, but again, it's talking about the road's traveling conditions. So that's why it goes both ways. So I'd agree with you, but we only have so much money. So we're moving towards doing better road reconstructions and less shim and overlays. So again, I agree with you that we could have done better on Stoneham Road.
Well, as you leave Stoneham Road to go to Route 16, you travel through Brookfield and Wakefield.
Yep.
I don't know what Brookfield is doing right, but they did a beautiful job on their section of road. And Wakefield's isn't too bad either, and they're holding up.
Yep.
So I just say something is going, and we're paying almost 50% more than the town of Ossipee for what they're doing with their roads. And their roads are pretty good too. So I don't know, there's something, and we're giving you just about 50% of the overall town budget. You get a big chunk of the pie, and it's not, that's your chart.
Oh, Public Works as a whole?
No, that's $2 million right there. That's the 1,000,003, and then the 7. It's $2 million.
And what do
That's
you,
your pie
versus what's the total pie?
versus the amount the town is raising.
Okay.
You're the second largest expenditure in the town of Wolfeboro.
I mean, and I'm not, you know, I'm not, arguing that. That's true. That's why I wanted to make the point. It's a pretty significant budget. In addition to the capital projects.
The results aren't satisfactory.
Again, that's why we're here to listen. But I would say that depending on which road you are, Pleasant Valley Road 10 years ago was a mess. And right now it has been returned to a pretty good condition. So I think on a lot of the roads we had successes. Some we have not had success. So I can't say it's always perfect. And I said maybe we made some mistakes there. But I think we're heading in the right direction.
And just the last thing, and I'm sorry that I'm kind of going on, not let anyone else speak, but when you talk about traffic
Yes.
and safety,
Yes.
2 accidents in 10 years, one on North Line Road and one on Old Wolfeboro Road. So you don't need to widen the roads anymore. The fire truck can get up there, the police cruisers come and do their thing, and we're hunky-dory.
Okay, great.
Less is more for us.
Very good. All right, again, I want to focus more on problems and needs with the gravel roads and be more than happy to listen to someone else who might want to speak up about some of the issues.
One thing I'd like
Name?
to, sorry, one thing I'd like to add
State
is,
your name, Jonathan.
oh, sorry, Jonathan Hopewell.
Thank you.
I'm up on Jennings Farm Road. I'd like to throw a question back at you and say, for the issues that are occurring, what are you going to do to fix them?
Well, we are trying to, again, in terms of,
Meaning, you know, for example, if we go back to my dirt road, yeah.
so this one here, I think we need to meet with you individually. I think certain property owners have been more vocal about their properties, and we meet with them one-on-one, and I think it is, it's probably important. And I think you met with Doug Lemery at a certain point, and we, again, your concern, again, would be, if I'm saying this correctly, that this is kind of the edge of the travelway, and we've kind of let a berm develop here so that normally the water would run down here. Is that correct? It wouldn't run on your
Well,
property?
now there's no berm at all because it's been overplowed.
Well, we winged it back here, but you can still see there is a little bit of a burn, and that now, I don't know.
No, but the problem is that was 2015 and that's 2016.
Here.
Yep.
So this is the one we just winged it back.
Right.
And
So all that snow is new. That basically the berm used to be near that snowbank
Right
and it
here,
got
right here,
plowed
right?
over.
So in this.
So,
in that, okay.
so the point, you know, the basic point is that there are a number of issues on Jennis Farm Road. It's not just that. There are, you know, when you use the wings, I took pictures of maybe 15 trees that are damaged along my road. And yes, you have those wings, but I mean, the trees are being damaged horrifically. So that's got to change. So what, you know, for example, what are you going to do about
Why
it?
don't you put down trees? This is a pretty important one. Damage of. Yep. So this gets back into the issue. I think we're going to need to go to the Board of Selectmen about, will we allow the roads to get narrow in the wintertime? And that is a specific question that then, does it bring in liability to the town? So again, I hate to think that I don't want to play I'm trying to scare anyone, but you know, when we had the vote day was just 3 weeks ago, and that, luckily, we had a good melt before that. But that was a pretty bad blizzard, and under those circumstances, we have to be prepared to be able to get emergency vehicles to any town-maintained road. And that would require us to be out there with a plow truck, possibly, and turning around when a emergency vehicle may be heading towards an emergency. So that's still our goal. If we allow certain roads to come back in, and that may be the only solution without helping property owners allowing us to expand the right-of-way, because we can make pretty roads if we have more right-of-way by, again, having the travel surface, having the ditches, and either moving back stone walls or cutting more trees. And then, but that is, again, an option. But the other option is what you're saying, go to the selectmen and say, on certain roads, will we designate these as roads that will not be, will only be plowed to the travel surface? Now, that's against my better judgment, but that's a decision we could bring to the selectmen. That would be, so why don't we say, discuss selectmen with winging of roads. Sarah?
Sarah Silk, I live on College Road. About 7:30 on voting day, I headed home in that terrible storm. I can make it downtown in 7 minutes. It took me 20 minutes to get home. Just before I got to my house, a mile and a quarter in off of Route 28, a police car came up behind me and put its blue lights on. I was fortunate that there was nobody else around because it was difficult to pull over because of the height of the snow. By the time I got my car just off the road into my driveway, 2 more police cars and an ambulance went by. So when you talk about the need for emergency vehicles during a storm, you're absolutely right. And it does absolutely happen. And maybe it doesn't go to any one of our particular homes, but it does need to get out there. And that's just a very recent example.
Right. So let's put down emergency vehicles as a concern. But I'm curious, because I saw heads nodding both ways. Would people who live on these roads be willing to accept risk if we did not maintain the roads what we do now? That you would allow them to go less? Or would you rather see them stay?
Which roads, though? 'Cause College Road is a whole different...
No, College Road, no, that's obviously, I'm talking about the gravel roads in North Wolfeboro.
Those vehicles went up College Road and up to North Wolfeboro, FYI.
Yep. Why don't you give that to Eric?
Eric Pelletier, I live on Haynes Hill Road. Eric Pelletier, I live on Haynes Hill Road. I used to work for the town in the highway department. One thing you guys gotta understand, you know, and if you've never done it, if you've never been out there doing this job, you gotta have those wings. You remember when they had that truck on its side on Dallas Road? That's because he didn't have a wing. He was trying to get the snow off the road and ended up in a ditch and on his side. The trees, that's driver error. It happens, but you get tired out there and you're trying to make the place safe for everybody, you know. And like I said, I'm not here to bash anybody or defend anybody, but you guys got to realize that. And out in North Wolfeboro, where I plowed, Stoddard, Haynes Hill, all those roads, it's not easy. It's not easy, folks. You get a heavy, wet snow, and it's, you know, like that, it's tough. It's really hard. And then to go in and try and clean it all up afterwards with a grader is even harder because the roads are low. We need material out there. That's why there's no ditches. That's why there's rocks everywhere. That's why everything's getting, you know, chewed out, because we're trying to get a place to put the water, you know. Because I was out there and I had been on that route for 7 years. This is Tony's first year out there, and that's Rich's first year out there. And it's hard. It's very hard, you know.
Let's hear some more about the concerns of the other people. I appreciate that, Eric. Ginny, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I just have one. Just one question. It's just a little bit of clarification, I think. When you first started speaking, you said something about some parts of the roads are meant to be more narrow than others?
I didn't actually, I said that's the reality. You got to keep it close to your mouth.
I just want clarification on this, Dave.
Okay?
You were talking about the width of the roads at that point.
Yeah.
And you made some comment, I think, about how when you went out to look, you realized what we're talking about. Some places could be widened, some places should be more narrow.
And I think this is Culper, but I think this is an example where the road was widened here and it looks like it's a little narrow there.
And that's not what I mean. Maybe I'm not explaining myself very well. The road itself, not just a little...
What I was talking about, the travel widths here, they vary. The travel ways vary.
Let me ask you this. Is it possible, if we were willing to accept risk, as you say, which we all accepted when we moved out there when the roads were narrower, is it possible to have the roads put back the way they were?
I would say that I would not recommend it, but I'm here to listen, and I think that's something that we would have to discuss at the selectman level and have legal counsel on that to make sure that is it even possible for us to go backwards in these certain areas, that either it be it would have to be the Board of Selectmen that would direct me to do different form of maintenance. And it would be costly. Obviously, we have some serious issues, like Eric was saying, because of years of grading without adding gravel. You can see, I think, yours is a great example.
I could tell you that. Oh, yeah.
The road is 2 or 3 feet lower than it was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's created a problem where we're undermining the stone walls. Now, we're not purposely trying to touch the stone walls, but because of Mother Nature and wind and the undercutting of the ditches, we're seeing some potential problems there.
So the only way I can see to correct that is then to build out the berm now and create a smaller road. Am I?
There are 3 options. I see 3 options. One is to make a smaller road. One is to make the road proper and extend the right-of-way. What I'm saying here is to maybe push those stone walls out. We'd have to have property owner agreement on that, and it would be a case-by-case basis. That would require a public hearing. And then the other option is to put closed drainage in, and that's the option we have in neighborhoods. So here we can have a curb, so you can have a nice lawn right up to the edge of the road, but we have a curb with a gutter and closed drainage systems, and that is very expensive. So we talk about context-sensitive solutions. Well, in the downtown area, it's grown to be that way, so we have curbs and closed drainage. But out in the rural area, it becomes, when you try to have a closed drainage system with gravel roads, well, you know what's going to happen. The gravel's going to get into those pipes, and it's going to be harder to maintain them. So we try to stay away from those on the gravel roads, but that may be a solution. We talked about that as potentially putting a culvert in to raise the grade and to stop the ditch from eroding. So those are options, but I think I can't give you a one solution fits all. I think we need to meet individually.
Just as another little point of clarification, you've already taken like 8 feet of land. I have a pie-shaped thing, and
Yes.
piece of land, and you've already taken like 8 feet out of Stoddard Road, and I've lost that much,
Right.
which brings it right to the wall, and it's undermining. We talked about all this, but I just like everyone to know. It seems to me that you will then on my road have to rebuild that so I don't lose the wall. Are you still asking me that I still have to give up more land by moving the wall back?
What I'm saying is, this spring we're going to go. We have a couple sets of problems with your property, and I think the biggest one to me is the drainage turnouts down towards the bottom of the hill. There's a mess down there. That needs to be cleaned up, and we talked about trying to make that look much better, aesthetically pleasing, and to work, function a little more for us so we can clean out those ditches. Regarding how we handle that significant problem coming out of your driveway and down that hill, I don't have an answer for you tonight, but we're going to work with you and try to see if we can do better. But I don't have a good answer because it's a very significant issue. Again, we'd like to have anyone else who would like to add to the problems and concerns you might have with the way we maintain roads or how you'd like to see things. Roger?
My name's Roger Murray, and I've lived on Brackett Road since 1972. When I first moved out there were about 2 weeks out of the year when I couldn't drive to my house because of the mud. It was certainly a one-lane road because if you moved off the center line, you weren't coming out. I believe when I went out there, I was assuming a risk. I did not expect to receive the same fire protection or emergency services as if I lived downtown. And probably today I still don't expect that, although Tom Sani may disagree with me. But I think you have a certain risk, and I don't think all roads in the town need to be 18 feet wide or two vehicles able to pass one another. This past spring, there was a forest fire off of Tumbledown Dick, and at that point, even with the road the size it is, I had probably 5 different fire departments in my yard. There are 2 culverts on Brackett Road, which are not as wide as the traveled way. And I think, there are places you simply don't need that wide a road, and in the plowing, they are undermining stone walls. And I think that there are just some places where one-lane road is absolutely fine.
I'm Roy Ballantyne, and I live on Beach Pond Road. My concern about Beach Pond Road is that over the last couple of years, the periodicity of grading and filling of potholes on that road seems to have stretched out to an abnormally long period between treatments. And it's got a very predictable pattern of wear. It basically doesn't get worked on until I email somebody in the town begging for attention, and then it gets fixed sometime in a week or 2 later. Why can't there be a regular, the road's going to deteriorate at a certain rate, why can't there be a regular program of repairing it?
Good question. Beach Pond Road is a very heavily traveled. It's a through road from Ossipee towards North Line and towards our solid waste facility. We should do a better job. That's one we can write down. That requires much more maintenance, say, than a Brackett Road, which maybe once or twice a year. But we try to balance those efforts, and we do things in cycles. And when we get geared up to do grading in the springtime is when we try to treat it. But I think on the higher traffic roads, that's a good comment, and that we can probably do better on that. So thank you. Anyone else? Can you pass the mic? Who has the mic? Oh, you got it. Oh, thank you.
I don't think so.
You do? You do because of TV.
I do. All right, fine. Happy to use it. I'm not trying to stand at the podium for any reason except to put some things down. So, I'm Claude Rossiger, and I'm speaking for the Society for the Preservation of Rural Wolfeboro. We were founded 8 weeks ago. We have over 50 families across Wolfeboro now, over 100 members. I'm also speaking for myself, but I'll make the distinction. We have a mess. The roads are worse and worse. At this point, I'd like to take a management view rather than speaking of the details. We have a long list of details, but this would burden you and is probably not the right venue for that discussion. The management view is how we fix the problem. I was happy to hear Mr. Ford say that he was here to listen. It would be kind if that is what happened. And I think we would be happy to work together. That would be a new thing. but why don't we try? This is a long-standing problem, and it's gotten worse year by year. It's now established by discussion with the Board of Selectmen, the town manager, that the widening of the scenic roads of Wolfeboro was done without the legal authorization required for alteration. And alteration is widening. I see Mr. Owen shaking his head, but he and Mr. Harriman and I met, at which it was confirmed to me that there was no authorization by the Board of Selectmen, and there was no authorization by the voters of the town of Wolfeboro. That is what the RSA requires. The scenic road ordinances to which Mr. Ford referred, he gave us the literal part of the ordinance. The literal part is the trees and the stone walls, but the ordinance goes well beyond that. The ordinances, the scenic road ordinances state their purpose, and their purpose is the maintenance of the traditional character. That is written into the ordinance. It has been heard in New Hampshire courts and has been ruled on that the spirit of the ordinance is part and parcel of the ordinance. It means much more than just trees and stone walls. It does mean the maintenance of the traditional character. None of us, I don't believe, anyone here, opposes safety. Safety can be different things, and I was happy to hear Mr. Ford say that maybe different standards have to apply to different roads. That is true. We don't expect the same standards as on I-95 on one of our scenic roads. We don't even expect the same standards as on Route 28 or Route 109. They are different, and the people who live on such roads accept those differences. That doesn't mean we accept unsafe roads, which is what we have today. The roads are in the worst state that we have seen them in many, many years. In fact, close to impassable. The other thing about safety, and we have been doing our research and consulting expert opinion, how to make two-lane rural roads safer. Well, safety, it turns out, isn't necessarily what we've just been told. Because in the studies regarding safety, we discover that the three most important things for safety. This is statistical analyses by experts. These are professional manuals, by the way. Design consistency, operating speed consistency, driving dynamic consistency. Those are the three most important things for safety. And if one reads further, one learns that aesthetic roads have a higher safety record than those that are not, because they calm traffic. We also learn that it is known, I'm reading from the book, it is known that signs and markings can improve the safety record of a road section. However, the improvement is seldom substantial. I'm happy to make this available. So safety, yes, definitely, but safety in a meaningful and true sense. And as Suzanne told us, safety has not really been an issue on our roads. Why? Because they were traffic calming. With the widening in sections, we've lost the traffic calming, and we've lost the natural constraint to speed. So we now see much higher speeds. And higher speeds aren't only more dangerous, especially where they become variable speeds because of variable widths. They also cause more wear. On the state of Alaska's website, and Alaska has more miles of gravel roads than any state in the Union, you can read that every 10-mile-per-hour increase in speed results in 50% more wear. So when we do this and increase the speed of our gravel roads, we are twice damned. Moreover, and I think this can be a concern to all of us, our neighborhoods now look downright shabby. It's embarrassing to invite someone to one's home. It's not so easy to get to one's home. Property values are affected. It's absolutely certain that there are people, if one of us put a house on the market, who would not buy a house on these roads. They would say, no, I don't want to live there. That doesn't have to do with the width of the road. It has to do with the state of the road. Now, Suzanne spoke to the budgets, and it's true. To the best of our ability, and I subject that to further review, it would appear that if we simply divide miles of roadway into town highway budgets, town of Wolfeboro spends about $30,000 per mile. Town of Ossipee, $19,000. I'll come to why that's important in a moment. When we tried to understand what the cost of the work on the scenic roads had been over the last 3 years, there has been intense work, often purposeless work, often inexplicable work. We were told by the town manager that there was no plan, no budget, no instructions, and no record of the work. Now, given the number of labor and machine hours that went into it, that is surprising. I mentioned earlier that we have a long list from expert opinion of the things that are wrong with our roads and things that need to be corrected. It is not the time or place to go through that list, but we would hope to be able to do that across the table constructively. But our conclusion, and in various ways, Mr. Ford alluded to that, is that the town today lacks the experience to design, construct, or maintain these roads. Now, you can say, well, that's your opinion. You've had your say, now sit down and be quiet. But no, it's not my opinion. It's the opinion of the evidence presented to us by the Rose of Ossipee, which I photographed this Monday, therefore at the end of winter. You can go where you want in the town of Ossipee, and you will find the dirt roads in good order, regularly graded, evenly laid out, neat and clean. You will find the paved roads, even and without the breaking up that we see in our town. So a town that has a smaller budget, that spends less per mile, gets an astonishingly good result. I realize that this is not comfortable for the Public Works Department of Wolfeboro to hear. But one has to say what it is. By the way, please pass these around and have a look. Because we have the evidence of what's wrong and what needs to be done to make it right in our neighboring town. We don't have to go far. We don't have to bring fancy and expensive people from far. I have a suggestion, but it's just a suggestion. I'd hope that Mr. Harriman would be here. Mr. Harriman, from the Board of Selectmen, Wolfeboro, as many of you may know, Public Works Director in the town of Ossipee. I have a sense that he has felt that it's a little bit of an awkward spot to have these dual roles. On the other hand, I have a sense that he would have a great deal to teach us, as would his road supervisor in Ossipee. Mr. Ford spoke to that, Mr. Pelletier spoke to that. New man, inexperienced, not knowing how to handle equipment, may be equipment too large for purpose. And yet, the excuse that, oh, well, you know, these big equipment, you do bang into things. Well, you know what? Ospey's got some big trucks too. So how do they not bang into things? How do they get the result they get? I would propose to you that we're not going to solve this problem without experience. I'm not going to address the many things that Mr. Ford said to us. Not here, not right now. I can tell you that a great many of them looking for a word, diplomatic, are misunderstandings. I'm not Ross Perot, I might have said something else. For instance, the photograph that he put up that was sent to him by Jonathan Doherty, I have Jonathan Doherty's entire letter here, is the one that Jonathan Doherty put up as an example of how things were done incorrectly. He put directly above that photograph a photo of how the road looked before, which was what he thought was when it looked correctly done. So we grabbed the wrong one. The photographs that Mr. Ford showed us from Jonathan Doherty, they're brilliant photographs, that show the drainage ditches filled with erosion. Well, that was created by gouging the road in the widening and leaving erosion-prone road edges and a very roughly dug out sump, which immediately failed. My point, Mr. Ford, is not to berate you. You may not believe that. I know that. But if anyone here who has not driven our roads would drive them, I believe that you will believe me. It's the roads that speak, not I. What to do? And I'll then sit and be quiet. We need experience. We need the simple recognition that what we're doing ain't right. We could make it right. We can listen to each other. We've spent a great deal of time trying to understand. These are professional manuals, not fun to read at bedtime. I've been through them, page by page. This one, low volume road engineering, design, construction, and maintenance. Expert opinion. These are for roads that have 400 or less vehicles per day. Most of our scenic roads have 400 or less vehicles per day. So it's the right book. I can tell you that after reading these books, after speaking with one of the authors, we are doing almost every element of the design, construction, and maintenance of the roads incorrectly. And I don't want to go further except to ask you to look at the photos from Ossipee. Ask why that is. There really is a difference. Sorry.
Good. Thank you, Claude. That was very good. Appreciate that. Anyone else would like to speak? Sure. No, were you done? I thought you had enough to say. I guess we could summarize that in just saying that the Public Works Department is totally incompetent, doesn't know what we're doing, right?
I didn't say that, Mr. Ford.
Okay, that's what I thought you said. We're going to have to summarize it for the bulletin board, but go ahead, Eric.
Well, if that's where it's going, we're not going to solve the problem.
I'm just trying to summarize what you said, but you went on for a long time there.
So did you.
I know, you did. All right, Eric, if you guys want to sit down, I want to, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I just had one question about these, where the experts are from, because you can't go from, you got to do the region by region, not just around the world, you know, I mean, if they got, you know, roads in Africa that aren't going to be like the ones we got here. And,
Eric, it's okay. We're not going to debate the details. I would say we'll check that there.
I just, you know, where the experts are from.
No.
That has always happened, and
Again, there was no intent to cut him off. I thought I'd given him a good 15 minutes. I would like other people to have a chance to speak, also to either agree or disagree with Mr. Rosinger. Does anyone else would like to speak? We still have got plenty of time here.
This is Peter Rossinger, living on Stoughton Road. I think the width of the road is a reflection of the speed that we get on our road. If you travel a narrow road, a two-lane narrow road, you tend to go slower than faster.
Correct.
And on our road, we've had a noticeable increase in speed. You just have to be there at the early morning. I guess Stoddard Road is now a through road between people on the, I don't know, west side of town, east side of town, or whatever have you.
Sure.
But they seem to, over the years, adopted our road as a shortcut over to Ossipee or wherever they're going. But I believe that if it were kept to a narrower design, you'd have less speed because you're going to slow down.
Let's get that down. Narrow roads and through traffic, because I think that you're correct there. We've had an increase in through traffic now, maybe because the roads are in better shape, although we've heard that they maybe not be in as better shape. But
Well, David Lee Rossiger, and I have to second what my brother.
you got to keep it close to your mouth there.
What my brother-in-law and my husband said. I walk the dog in the morning. And ever since the road has become wider, and I've lived there for 35 years, and it has become wider, noticeably so,
Right.
except for right now because we have a plethora of potholes. When they're coming through, and we only have 2 new houses between, in the 35 years I've lived there, between College Road and Diamond Corner.
Yep.
2.
Yep.
Okay? So that is not.
But you've had an increase in traffic.
We've had, because people started using it as a shortcut
Right.
when the roads started to get wider.
Sure.
And when I walk the dog in the morning and people are coming through, they gun up the hill on that paved part.
Sure.
And you've got that straight right of way.
Right.
And they come through at least 50 miles an hour. Now, when I'm walking the dog and I'm on a cane, because I have some hip issues, so I have to, when I'm going out on an uneven ground, use it.
Right.
They will barely stop for me to get control of my dog to bring her over to the side. And this is exactly illustrates another safety issue. And it always used to be much, much narrower. And we've noticed over the years, every year it gets a little wider, a little wider, a little wider. And now we've got some people thinking it's a throughway.
Good point. No, I think that's, again, I'm not, anyone else like to speak?
I merely just have a question. Now that we have most of the gravel and all that from the road, especially in the last 3, 4, 5 days, has been moved from the center of the road over to the right-of-way, whose responsibility is it to remove the road from the right-of-way and put it back where it belongs?
Well, a good question, but you know, are you serious or are you joking? Okay, so
Serious.
within the travel way, we would use a grader in the springtime to bring the gravel back to the center of the road. If the gravel is plowed into the grass areas or
Yep.
into the ditches, if it's in the grass areas, then it's a problem because we can't be grading out the grass and we're not going to hand rake all the grass. If it gets into the ditches on top of the leaves, then it'll be ditched out in the spring, in the fall.
Ken Perry from Diamond Corner. I started driving these roads every day to go to work in 1969. And my experience has been that they were ditching the roads periodically every few years with the road grader in the early 70s. Wing plows were used occasionally to push the bankings back. That was being done at that time. Mud season was far worse than we have now. And as with regard to safety, Tom Zotti may want to speak to this. 4 or 5 years ago, the winter we had almost a record-breaking snowfall for the entire winter. On a Saturday night in February, there was a chimney fire on Cowper Road. The way I found out about it was because suddenly there were 7 or 8 fire vehicles outside our house at Diamond Corner. Why weren't they at the fire? Because the road had narrowed so much with the snow, the only vehicle they could get to the fire was the small truck that Ossipee Corner brought. The rest of the fire trucks could not get through. Fortunately, it was a chimney fire. Fortunately, the owner had it almost out by the time they got there, but it could have been far more serious.
Thank you.
My name's Stacy Pope. I live on Brackett Road. I've lived there for the last 20 years, and first I must say I'm happy that you have a very large budget because I think that you're doing a good job and you have a lot to maintain with a big budget. One of the things I'll first address, which has been a theme here, is speed. I sometimes think that speed is more an issue of common courtesy and people not understanding they're on a dirt road where there are people walking their dogs, or my neighbor's kids riding their horses up and down the road, or my other neighbor's grandchildren riding their bikes up and down the road. So sometimes I think they don't realize that the dirt road is sometimes they should slow down. Unfortunately, I do believe that the posted speed limit on all roads is 30 miles per hour. So I don't know if that's something that maybe the selectmen can look at. Maybe
Put
dirt
that down as a
roads.
potential action item, lowering speed limits.
My one concern would be, you had a great picture of the ditches that go practically vertical. That issue does happen on our roads sometimes because not is it's just a road, but above that vertical ditch is actually a stone wall. And over time, that stone wall, the stone wall is actually falling into the ditch. And I would love for something to save the stone walls because those are something that are important to me. And let's see, what was the other thing? That was really my main concern.
Protection stone walls and the
Protection of the
undercutting.
stone walls and
Sure.
the ditching on the side would be the main thing. But also, if you could just address the, where you have your, if you have a flat road that meets, if your lawn comes down into the road,
Right into here,
how
yep.
would you make that ditch? Because some of my, some of our property is stone wall on the road, but then some of it comes into a flat grassy area.
Yep.
And at one point, back in the days of the Wild Wild West, they said, if you maintain it, we'll respect it. If I maintain it, but how would you make a ditch there without going onto the lawn? Like, so
You can't. You have to either go into the grass area that you've kind of moved in on. You moved in on the right of way to put the nice grass, which works fine. And
I
you
don't
don't
have nice grass, but
Well, you have a nice, yeah. So, but the other way is to put a curb, like right here, in a closed drainage system. So you
but how
put
would you do on a dirt road, or do you just?
No, again, it's not a good alternative, which is we're saying we're trying to get back to the ditches and open ditches on the rural and gravel roads is the best solution we've but obviously I've got some homework to do here.
Okay.
And I do want to apologize to Mr. Rogers. I did not mean to cut you off. No, I didn't mean to be flippant with you. I think some of your comments were hard to hear, and it did, quite honest with you, I took them as insults, but I understand you're trying to be maybe, having constructive criticism. So I'm going to take it that way, and I want to apologize to you publicly because I did not mean to cut you off.
I just had one other thing. I don't know if this is a concern of everybody on the road, but where Pleasant Valley Road, at one point when it was redone a couple years ago, it doesn't meet the dirt road anymore. So there's a big, large water hole at where it meets.
So that's
maybe
Pleasant
in
Valley
the
and Brackett. Yeah, so that's a transition. We can get some gravel in there. Yep, yep, very good.
Hi, we still there?
Gotta keep it close.
My name's Peter Fogel, and I'm a newcomer to this area. I've only been here about 10 years. I live on Upper Trask Mountain Road, and several things happened today, and I don't know if it was karma because I was coming to this meeting or whatever.
Try to keep it close to you. Yeah. It's hard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All
Right,
sorry
close
about
there.
that. There was a gentleman and a realtor who were on Upper Trask Mountain Road about 11 o'clock this morning, And he had come in from the Midwest to look at a home for sale that's up there. And of course, the people who have the home for sale are in Florida, and the driveway's got about 4 feet of snow in it. You have to walk up a long driveway, and so I was helping them by letting them come up to my driveway and cut across the woods, which is much shorter. In the process of them coming back from the house, I happened to be outside, and I said, well, what did you think of the house? And he said, oh, it's a lovely house. I'm sure my wife would love it, but I can't possibly bring my family to live on a road like North Wolfeboro Road and Apr6th Mountain Road.
Speaking of the condition of North Wolf, the paved
Yes,
section, yeah,
and
it's very bad. Yeah.
I didn't plan this, it just happened this morning. I said, well, I'm going to a meeting this afternoon where we're going to try and work cooperatively, which is what I've heard everybody here say today, which is a good start to tackle these problems. I said, give me your email address, and I'll email you in 2 weeks after this meeting and tell you what solutions we've come up with or what plans we're going to put in place. Right. Anyway, that's one story. The second story is...
Put North Wolfeboro down. That's, I don't know if we've got... Yeah, okay, you got it down. Great.
North Wolfeboro, in my humble opinion, and I have never worked on a road in my life, is not safe. North Wolfeboro Road is terrible.
North Wolfeboro Road, coming off of 28.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, would you agree? I must confess the third part of my story is I now come down Stoddard Road because I can't go down North Wolfeboro Road. But I have more dogs than you, and I go slowly. But that's why I go that way. I can't travel North Wolfeboro Road and feel as though it's safe. It is horrendous. And if somebody starts going fast on there and doesn't know that road, they're going to hit one of those crevices or those breaks, and they're going to lose control and meet a telephone pole. So question for you, David, is there some immediate action in the near future for North Wolfeboro
Well, I
Road?
tell you, we express your concerns. I mean, this last couple of years, it's gone downhill. I think I mentioned that we did shim and overlay it, and then we did a chip seal, and that's it's been 4.5 years now. So it's and we've been salting the roads to try to keep the roads clear. I think that exacerbates the problem. The frost heaving has been terrible. The uneven settlement, where you see the cracks that are exposing, which could take out a tire. You got to go very slow. An immediate solution, we could reclaim it and leave it in a gravel form, which is extreme, and I wouldn't recommend that, but that's a potential which you would change it back into a gravel road, because that would stop the crazy heaving going on. It needs a major rebuild. We need to pull out the rocks that are heaving up. We need to go ahead and put under drains in, as we did on Park Hill Road, and we need to add a adequate base. There's just not a good crushed gravel under there, so it's got multiple problems. We tried the Band-Aid approach back in 2010, and it didn't hold up. I think as you know, sometimes those are cheap solutions, and it worked. A couple of years it was okay, but then it's fallen apart over the last 3 years pretty bad.
Is that what you just did with Witten Neck Road? Was that a major rebuild?
Witten Neck Road has a water line on it, so it had multiple problems. Yeah, so we replaced the water line, and we did reclaim it and added gravel in certain sections and put under drains. Yes, exactly. And that would, again, should hold up a good 20 years now. Yeah.
One last word of wisdom. I've now become my grandfather. My grandfather always told me that if you fail to plan, you're planning for failure.
Thank you. Good words of advice. Someone else?
I just question, right now, the way North Wolfeboro Road is it your plan in the very near future to bring it up to the standards of Park Hill Road?
Well, unfortunately, I would hate to say this, but we are in a crisis management mode with regards to roads. We go year to year. The budget that was just authorized at town meeting at $750,000 does not include North Wolfeboro Road as being done this year. However, it's so bad, I think part of a follow-up from this meeting would be to talk to the selectmen about what our plan is and what our options are. And like I say, although it seems extreme, I don't, there's any way within the budget that we could complete projects we're committed to already and then do a rebuild this year. It's not possible. The earliest possible rebuild would be next year, and it would cost a significant amount of money, which would then put off other roads that have been waiting to get done who haven't been touched maybe 10 or 15 years. So the extreme solution of reclaiming it and turning it back to a gravel road for a short period of time until we could rebuild it is an option which, again, when someone asked me about it, I just shook my head, and I'm still one that I haven't been able to think through, but I just, maintaining gravel roads is not easy. as poor a condition as that is. And I've gone up there a couple times to see how bad it is, and if you haven't driven on it, there's no exaggeration. It's in really, really bad shape. Although I think the last time up there, the frost heaves seem to be coming out, so some of the heaves are not as bad as they were, say, a week ago. Not that that makes it any better, but I think in another few weeks, it won't be as bad. So if you really want to see the bad condition, you got to go up there now. In a couple of weeks, it won't be as bad. But so the reality is, we're going to have to talk to the selectmen about that and see if we would take something extreme, and that's something I'd be looking for input. Would people up there would they rather see it go to a gravel road, or would they rather see it be wait another year and see if we can do it properly?
The gravel roads I travel on up in there are in better shape than the asphalt.
That's what they. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Ken, do you want to speak right behind you?
That's true most winters. The Berkowitzes who moved in 1980 reminded me the other day that you told us that the gravel roads were easy to drive on in the winter, and he said, I thought you were crazy. He said, but every winter I've seen that you were right, and that's what we have. And North Wolfeboro Road has improved greatly in the last 3 or 4 days. But isn't that an example of a road that was never built? It was a gravel road that was just oiled and built up with layers of oil and tar?
That's correct, yep. It's the, the soils underneath it are much different than other roads, which are very frost susceptible. There's a lot of rocks which are now popping up.
Right.
And it doesn't have the gravel base that it should, a paved road should have.
And to build it correctly would be like doing Pork Hill.
Correct.
And I certainly, for one, don't want to see a Pork Hill type road on scenic North Wolfeboro Road.
What if we made it 12 feet wide?
Well, whatever the speed. But North Wolfeboro Road has a speed limit of 30. If you go 30 most of the year, it's fine. The last few weeks, it's been a 15 or 20 mile an hour road. But it'll get back to a 30 mile an hour road, but it will never be a 40 or a 50 mile an hour road as some of our neighbors drive it.
Okay, I'd like anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak? One comment. Would you like to, okay, you want to respond? Sure.
The issue of speed has been raised, and I take that seriously because I have the same in front of my house, so we're not in fundamental disagreement. All traffic engineering, all, will teach you about the 85th percentile speed. It is the speed at which people would drive on a road without any indication of speed. It is the natural speed of the road. Traffic engineering designs to that speed. You can control speed by the design of the road. That is the most effective means. Signs are the least effective.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? Again, Tom?
My name's Tom Zotti. I'm the Deputy Chief of Fire Rescue, and for the record, next month will be our 20th year of living on a gravel road in the town of Wolfeboro. I've kind of been taking in what's been said tonight and in other situations, and I just had a couple of quick thoughts for what it's worth. And I'm having trouble reading my own scribble, but bottom line, I think it's been alluded to, and I think we concur with the fact that some of these decisions going forward will be a policy decision that the board will have to make in terms of whether to let some of these roads get a little narrower and so forth, as has been discussed tonight, and so be it. And I think our input, I presume, will be taken before that, or in the process of making that decision, and be that as it may. We've kind of alluded to apparatus and the size of apparatus. Just by way of background, there are standards that dictate much of that. I would encourage anyone with specific concerns to call or come by and see us. One thing you'll notice is a variety of shapes and sizes of apparatus in the building. One of the major considerations when we replace a piece of apparatus is its size and turning radius and height and so forth, for a lot of the reasons that we've already talked about here today. One of my personal policies, if you will, is I try to not only refer to what we drive as apparatus, but they're toolboxes. We have a variety of toolboxes of different sizes and shapes to address a variety of different problems. Having said that, we occasionally get caught in a situation, more so in the last several years than perhaps in the past. I can't give you hard numbers right off the top of my head, but we've run these routinely. We average 10 to 12 to as much as 14% of our calls in each of the last 5 to 6 years are what we call concurrent calls. We have 2 and sometimes as many as 4 or 5 calls happening at the same time. So sometimes when I think there's the appearance of that they brought a certain piece of apparatus, and how did they ever expect to get that up here? There may be something else happening, literally as well as figuratively, that might dictate why you're seeing what you see. And again, if you have a specific question or concern, you absolutely contact me or the chief or any of us. Bottom line, we will get there if you have an emergency. What our part and parcel, if you will, is time. Obviously, if every road was maintained like North Main Street, our response time would be less than a 1-lane gravel 10-foot wide road to a couple of camps on one of our lakes and ponds. We'll get there. It may take a while. It may be labor intensive, but we'll get there. I sort of equate it to, for example, if we had an emergency, whether it's medical or fire of some sort on Triggs Island tonight, we'll get there. It's going to take time, and that obviously impacts the outcome of the incident. If we had the same incident on Melody Island or one of the islands in the Big Lake, we'll get there. It will take time, and the apparatus we use or the toolbox we use may be different than the top of the hill on North Main Street. It's just, and I don't disagree, that we go into this with our eyes open and we buy a piece of property in a certain location. We know what we may be facing. And to sum up, and I'll be happy to answer any question that I can, being someone who lives on a gravel road and also being someone who uses our roads both in vehicle and on foot quite often, speed and distracted driving are problems in society. They're not just limited to our narrower roads. Not to minimize any of the concerns that were expressed here tonight, but I've seen it on Main Street, I've seen it on Pleasant Valley Road, I've seen it on any road that I travel, whether it's cell phones or playing with the radio or drinking coffee while you're driving. There are issues that are not just limited to our older, less non-paved, narrower roads. I will cede the microphone unless somebody has a specific
again, I would like to
question
get,
I can try to answer.
because I want to get to action items, which, what are we going to do following up from here? And as long as, if we get any new concerns or problems that we haven't heard yet, I'd be happy to hear that. I'd also offer that if you didn't want to speak tonight or that you thought about something later on, we are going to make this open-ended. So we will, what I like to do is we're going to kind of summarize the notes and say what we have come up with for the problems and needs. And then we're going to kind of list some action items here. And then we're going to get those out, whoever wants them, in an email. And then you say, hey, you forgot about this, or that's not what I meant something else. We'll take additional comment. And then from there, I think in terms of our action items, I think we're going to need to talk to the Board of Selectmen. I would like to then at some point set up a meeting with the Selectmen to go over the information we received tonight from you. And I think we also need to, there were some specific areas that were not discussed. I think Mr. Rosinger talked about some specifics, and I think we need to maybe discuss with you those, if you want to put those in writing, or if you want to give us some of the references that you talked about today. Those are all important that we should take a hard look at. Again, I don't want to be defensive tonight. I think the intent was to make sure that we had an opening and try to keep this communication open. So the intent is not to shut down. And I am someone who is very emotional. So again, I apologize for getting a little snappy there. But I think we've got to do better. And I think there's specific areas where I think we could do better. I would tell you this though. You know, government moves slowly, and I wish I could say we could make it change all at once. It's not going to happen that way. It took us 30 years to slowly widen these roads, and if we're going to reverse that trend, then that's going to take some time. But I think the first step is actually just to listen, to take in the constructive criticism, to kind of list them, to kind of talk about that. And as far as action items, let's say first that we're going to have to meet with the selectmen, so that there'll be a meeting with the Public Works and the selectmen to go over the things that we discussed today. Second thing I would say that I would appreciate anyone who wants to add additional information to this could do so via email. My email address is pwdirector@wolfeboronh.us, and it's easy to find on the webpage if you forget. So that's always somewhere you can continue to give us feedback, so we appreciate that. And then specific concerns, which we had talked about, like I met with certain people, and I can't meet with everyone every day, but we think that in the context, not the same solution for everyone. So if there are some specific concerns, like you say, hey, I know this culvert is plugged, or this tree's got whacked over and over again, what are we going to do about it? We'd like to hear about those so we can see if we can correct those. I think, Claude, you want to say something more?
Sorry, but just as I mentioned, we have a long list of things. They are serious issues, and I said that I would not go through them tonight because it's too long.
Right.
I think they are well-reflected issues. They reflect issues that have been raised by the residents to me. They also reflect issues that expert opinion has suggested. So if we could establish a meeting where we sit across a table, perhaps have some of the selectmen present, town manager, why not, and discuss these things technically as opposed to in an argumentative way.
Sure.
Address them systematically. So your action item list doesn't have any of these on it, and that was deliberate, because it's too long a list. All right?
It would be follow-up meetings with specific groups, because you represent the
Yes.
preservation of North
Yes.
Wolf.
Yes.
And then we have the North Wolfeboro Association, which is the separate organizations, right?
Correct. And they
So,
can...
and if there's anyone else who would want to meet either individually
Right.
or as a group, we want to encourage that. So let's say follow-up meetings with stakeholders, and what I would like is...
And we're not looking for an exclusive meeting. Anybody who wants to join in. But
Well,
we
I
have
think what
issues to go through.
We find with the specifics, if you want to have the one-on-one, the smaller groups will be easier, because you can say we could...
They
but
may be, but any interested party, I mean, I believe in very open discussion.
Good, thank you.
On your action item, possibly, would you analyze one method does not suit all of North Wolfeboro? I heard you yourself acknowledge that, and I think that's a good recognition, that each road has its own characteristics and needs.
Right.
And could that be included in your action items to analyze how you would implement some sort of
Yeah, different levels of maintenance for different roads as an action item. Look at the possibility, because again, we don't have a lot of written instructions. When we teach someone to plow the road, they go out and plow, and like I say, I think Mr. Rosinger made the comment that he was surprised to feel that we don't have written plans when we do road construction. We do a lot of things by word of mouth, and the issue of how we would plow differently different roads is something that first I would like to get the selectmen discussion, because I am still like to make sure we're on solid legal ground. Is everyone here, it seems as though in agreement that we can go backwards in terms of road widths, and that hopefully that would slow traffic down. But the reality is, if we were to do something intentionally and there was an accident, and would we be liable? And I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to push that, but I think it's something that needs to be. So as a follow-up action, I think we do need to, and first will be discussion with the selectmen, and if the selectmen think that they want to go in that direction, we should make sure we have a good legal ground, that we're protected, so that we don't create a liability for the town down the road in case there is a problem. But I think what you're saying is also good, that we can look at how do we, you know, like for instance, if you're at the end of a dead-end road that's 2 miles long, yeah, can we look at treating things differently?
I'd just like to say, in the spring and the fall when they come up, there's one spot I guard with my life. And if I catch Doug, he has been he's just a wonderful gentleman. And he knows I want to protect that spot, and he's good about leaving it. So it's not all bad.
Okay, make that down. Suzanne's special spot. Don't touch her special spot. Oh, I should not have said that.
So I just have a quick question, Dave. It doesn't even have to be public. So you were talking specifically about my road, you know, as you turn left out the drive, and that's just an example I'm giving. But if Mr. Harriman is a selectman, he's also the head of public works or roads at least, over in Ossipee. Seems to me that even if you go like around the back door maybe, and talk to him about how you handle problems like my road, you know, and I'm sure there might be others, because, you know, I went up a road to take Xander over to a friend of mine. He was helping him do some farm work, and he lives, I don't know, half, 3/4 of a mile up a single lane dirt road. And this was just last weekend. And I went up there, and it was just, I went up and I came back, and the road was great, and the side was great, single lane, perfect.
Yep.
So there's got to be something. Maybe,
Yeah, well,
I don't know, maybe
again,
you can talk to him. You
Brad
know?
did come in late to the meeting, so he missed a lot of the front, but we'll be talking to him because he's...
Did you say fuss? You missed a lot of the fuss? Did you say fuss?
He missed a lot of the discussion, excuse me.
Oh, okay, just checking.
No, discussion. So, again, any other action items that we would like to put on the list that, Eric?
Actually, it's from Charlie Horskin. He wants to know if at the bottom of Haynes Hill where the stone culvert is.
Yep, Bobby Yaga, yep.
He wanted to know if there's any way possible to put something, like not a guardrail or something.
Right, so right by the Baba Yaga farm? So we'll put the narrow road by Baba Yaga. That is a real specific, yep. Baba. Huh. Yeah.
Just put my place.
You're right. That's I think someone else. Jonathan.
Just quickly, as far as an action item, I would like to suggest the town managers as a whole, please, so forth, meetings, like
Sure. Well, that's an action item. I can bring that to their attention, and I believe a lot of them do travel the roads, but he's asking to have the selectmen and the town manager drive the roads before we have our meeting so they can see up front, which is a good point. Would anyone else like to add to action items or anything else we haven't gone over? Again, if anyone would like to talk individually after the meeting, we'll be here. Again, like I say, if you want to add to the record, we'll be taking comments. Again, we appreciate everyone showing up. I thank you so much for your comments and your concerns, and hopefully we can do better. And again, if there's any other specific concerns or hazards in the roads, you always can call Marie Watson's my assistant, and if there are things where you have a pothole or a tree down, that's the one, and we'll try to get it done quickly. That's the emergency response. These are bigger, longer-term issues where we have to discuss with the selectmen. And again, thanks so much for coming out, and appreciate your time.